But I would like to talk about that 6 degrees of separation, that introduction and enterprise business. Rashad briefly spoke about this, and that's more of that business-to-business and perhaps even contract relationship that you maybe can think about in what you're doing for your business that can help scale it. And then the 6 degrees of separation from introduction. So I've heard each one of us has spoken about, hey, our counterparts can go and perhaps within 6 people have that $250K. And it's really true. Your network is your net worth. They're having conversations with the people that have the income potentially to see that. And I think we do need to talk about having those circles or holding space for those circles so we can have those levels of introduction, and that angel investing could look a little bit different in our community or similar in our community than it does in our counterparts. So if we could maybe just speak to that enterprise B2B relationship that I think some of us can think about to scale our businesses, and then that 6 degrees of separation. You know, if you don't have the money, perhaps you have the network. And then I'll yield the floor. Thank you again for y'all's time and the insight.
No, thank you very much, Rashad. Go ahead and jump in, because I know you don't have a lot of time. So go ahead, if you'll jump in and speak to Tamika's question, if you will. Thank you, Tamika, for the question.
Excellent question. And if I understood it correctly, I think she's asking, talk a little bit more about what it takes to develop an enterprise relationship, or what does that even look like? What is that about? And then the other thing was, how do you find the people to give you the money through your network? So I'll start with the first piece about the enterprise. I happen to believe that if it's a product business, even if it's a service, you should always think about, are there companies, are there large organizations that buy this service? So for instance, and this is kind of appropriate for this time. Like maybe you've got a cleaning product, right? I see sometimes on my Instagram feed, I see a lot of people who are like, hey, I make this special kind of, soap or oil or something. It's all natural. It's this or that. And they're whipping this up at their house. And they found a way to sort of come up with some pretty decent marketing, packaging, some of those other things. And they're trying to sell it now. And that's fantastic. And there's a lot they're going to learn from that process. It's cool. But there's also opportunity maybe to recognize that maybe there are a lot of local businesses that need to have certain kinds of soaps, and maybe they're in a particular part of the community where they want to offer natural soaps or natural cleaning or natural something. Perhaps you could begin to sell directly to those businesses, or even bigger. There may be military installations that may be close to you that buy these things in bulk. And so if you're able to figure out how to get your company registered, going into all the different registrations and certifications that your company would need to get in order to do business with the government, you might be able to sell this stuff at a high clip. I got a partner who's got a woman-owned business out of New York called Beautiful Brains. I do business with her. Recently started getting phone calls just because of the services that she could provide. She started getting phone calls late last week about, hey, listen, this COVID-19 crisis is going crazy. Do you happen to have any connection to anyone who can help us order these medical supplies? And she was getting calls from the hospital. Then she started getting calls from the bank, then the local grocery store chains. All those people started calling her to provide medical supplies. And here's the thing. On the days that they called her, she did not know that. But to now maybe flip into this concept about the 6 degrees of separation, she knew someone through me who's a lawyer who she just reached out, hey, do you happen to know someone who does this? He said, hey, I got some friends that I went to college with, that I went to law school with, who run an import-export business. Let me call him. Call the guy, the import-export business. Before you know it, there's, multi-million-dollar orders coming through the door for emergency, hospital gowns and N95 masks and all of that stuff. And that happens just like that. And so, instead of maybe pushing just an individual product to individuals only, start to think about what large companies need to buy this stuff in bulk. I ran a virtual pitch competition. There was a young gentleman who had this company called Mr. Fresh, I think, and it was an air freshener. And one of the things that I spoke to his mother about, as she was looking at, well, how do I begin to expand this? I said, well, great, you got an air freshener. That's cool. Why are you putting it just on shelves? How about you go to car washes? look at all the local car washes and see if you can, get the car washes to buy this stuff in bulk and start to think about other installations and so on. She joined the Chamber of Commerce. She got once she started to talk about the Chamber of Commerce and at some of the local meetups around, contracts and government contracting, she started to get lots of insider information where she could get bulk orders. And that changed the game for the business. It went from her trying to build one independent product and sell to and try to convince 1 million people to buy it to convince 2 people to buy 1 million. and it's
nice.
It's as simple as that. And I could extend on that in many different ways, but that's the concept of the enterprise, the 6 degrees of separation piece. I'll just give you a secret, right? And this is a secret that I offer to people most of the time, especially if I'm teaching in a class, because I don't think I can get too deep into the networking. I think I'll probably run out of time. But if you could spend the necessary time within your network, within your church, within your community, within the people that you know, find yourself a corporate lawyer, a high-powered lawyer somewhere, someone who might be either on the rise or has been attached to in the past or has done some work at a law firm. Generally, lawyers are attached to larger customers. Those customers have needs, right? And so if you're talking to one of them, they probably not only can help you figure out what kind of contracts you would need to write, what kind of enterprise agreements you need to pull together, but they have potential customers for you, and they can evaluate your product. Same thing with accounting firms, right? There's a KPMG or a PricewaterhouseCoopers or Grant Thornton or something in your town. Or even just a mid-sized accounting firm that works for some of the big businesses in your town. If you know anybody there, can figure out how to find someone, or you can use a thing called LinkedIn to do a search on those companies and see if you've got anyone in your network who's connected to them, or use your social media to figure out some of these things. If you know anybody who's connected to something like an accounting firm, get in front of some members of people who are at accounting firms, because what are they doing? They're constantly looking at the books of businesses. Right, they're constantly evaluating why and how those businesses are successful, and they know about the vendor relationships that those businesses have. You may have a pretty decent idea that you think could sell pretty well. You're talking to someone at an accounting firm who they're working for a customer who buys those products on a regular basis. They could probably connect you right away to exactly where you want to get. Then there's the whole concept of invisible capital. There's a book by Chris Robb out there. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to figure this thing out, I highly recommend spending some time reading that. It's a gentleman that you've had on the show before, Ed Hopkins, is a gentleman. He recommended it. He recommended the book. He actually gave me a copy of the book, and it's one of those things that changed my life when we talk about understanding the value of the network. There's another one called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. You could read. It could teach you a lot about how to go through the process of networking to build long-term relationships that allow you to build out your business in time. So that's my quick answer to everything my long answer to everything that Tamika I think was asking.
I think that's an excellent answer. Truth Seekers, I hope y'all are out there listening, taking advantage of these potential resources, the book recommendations, those that we admire quite often. One thing that's pretty consistent, all of them are voracious readers because they're looking for the information to be better at what they do. And so, believe it or not, when you think you don't have time for that, if you look at their story, they took time to read along the way. They didn't get there and didn't have time to read. So just kind of putting that out there. With that said, King, thank you for your time. I'll now let you kind of offer out any information that you want to put out publicly, and appreciate you for your time. It was a time well spent. Always appreciate having you on the show. And I'll highlight a new platform, a new show that's coming to the platform, which we just had our first one, Money Motivation. So you will hear, if you like what you heard with Rashad, you will hear him from time to time on our new show, Money Motivation. It'll be coming to the platform from time to time. Just wanted to highlight the fact that we have him on the Money Motivation Squad. Thanks again, King. Go ahead and let people know how they can reach you.
I'm personally excited about Money Motivation, so I'm definitely going to echo everything that Montoya said. You got to get on that. I know the people who are associated with that, and I'm personally learning from them. And so I'm very excited about participating and being part of that entire thing. You can find me at RashadHoward.com, or if you're on Instagram, RashadHoward_com. You can also hit me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place, honestly. It's where I spend the majority of my time now. LinkedIn is just Rashad Howard. It's a picture of me in a burgundy tuxedo coat with an afro. If you want to check out one of the companies I'm associated with, Epigen Technology, That's what we do on the government side. It's how we service customers. We're essentially changing the DNA of organizations using emerging technology. And I don't know, if you just Google Rashad Howard, I think I've worked really hard over the last few years to be near the top. So you can find me in many different ways. So
now you
thank
come
you
up,
again
brother.
for the opportunity, man. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity,
man.
It's always a pleasure to be a part of this, and I heavily support what you're doing. And by the way, if I need to renew any kind of membership or what have you, please let me know.
I'm gonna hit you after the show. I think we might be on real time.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna put you on blast on the air, but since you did yourself.
No, it's all good. It's auto renew time.